So, hello everybody, welcome to the video. I just wanted to show this prototype I put together for the people who are interested in this. It was done for OER content, which is openly available in the open web for higher education. So I will demonstrate that later. First of all, just a little bit about myself, how I came to OER. I was born in 1988, so I just found today on Twitter a little tweet about a scientist warning because of the climate change in the newspaper. So this was the year I was born. Now I feel a little bit betrayed by my school. But I don't know, the kids now notice what is going on, so that's a good thing. In 1989, as you all maybe know, the Berlin Wall came down. I was on the east side of it, living as a 1-year-old in Berlin, so this was of course a great opportunity for me. And fast forward, when I was 12 or 14, I discovered that I can create content which can be delivered to the web. I need no real permission. I just can create websites and all this stuff. And so I got a book on PHP. So thanks to Dieter Stas, this book was really great, but of course there were back in the time also things like self-HTML, where you could learn for yourself how to code, because back then in Lutherstadt-Wittenberg there was no real coding courses. So all the kids listening, you have great opportunities now with all the coding courses which are offered all over Germany and the world. So then I studied media education in Magdeburg, and there I had to do an apprenticeship which landed me at Hamburg, the nice agency Jöran and Consorten, which introduced me to this thing OER and bar camps and OER conference in Berlin. I didn't really figure out what this was at the time. I just said, okay, I will look into this. And what I found was for me a real great inspiration, because what fascinates me the most with a development background is that you can bring in some open source development skills and combine that with pedagogical didactics approaches, and so you can, like this image says, open source your university. At least this was the idea, so we're still working on that, I think, but I really love the idea to bring together all these kinds of open approaches and my skills as a developer. So this was really great to bring that into as well blogging, but as well development, and to maybe improve education and improve the learning opportunities, not only for pupils and students, but also outside of schools and higher education institutions. So that still is fascinating to me, and so I had the opportunity to work at University of Cologne in an 18-month project funded by it was called OER Labs, which was funded by the Federal Ministry of Education and Research. Then now I'm working in the it's called a pre-project. So we're creating a plan for another project which will hopefully then improve and enable a culture of sharing in higher education in our federal state. So there information on the web. You can read this all. Unfortunately, most of it is still in German, but I hope we can improve this as well. And this project is funded by a ministry as well, a federal state ministry for culture and science. So I think it's really great that we can explore options for OER with public funding. And so I'm a big fan of Public Money, Public Code, which was an initiative also picked up by the great people at Wikimedia in Berlin in the German-speaking context, and we now call it ÖK, which is public money, public good. And it basically says that everything which is publicly funded should be as well available as a public good for the citizens who enabled this opportunity in the first place. So we have this discussion in open access as well. Open science picks it up as well, and I think it's also a great argument, not for the teacher who does regular teaching. I mean, he is provided with public money as well, but I think it's a very strong argument for projects in education where public money is involved, and it's the projects slowly fade away from the web, and you can't really pick them up and remix them. And I think that's a really great approach to change that, and maybe we can change some educational practices as well. So for the regular day teaching, maybe this will provide some inspiration. So this is really great. Thanks to all the people enabling that. I could never have imagined when I started with coding and then with openness and Creative Commons licenses that I'd work in two projects which are enabled by public money, and that this is specifically about OER. I think that's a really great thing, so thanks for everybody enabling that. Right now I'm a few months left in the 1-year project, which I mentioned, the pre-project content marketplace as we call it right now. I'm in the HBZ, maybe you're familiar with that. It's the institution which also is involved in the OER world map, and so thanks to Jan Neumann for this opportunity and all the people at the HBZ. They told me more about metadata and ElasticSearch and all the stuff I will show you in the next minutes. Thanks also to Tobias Steiner, which is now more involved in open science. He was also a great mentor getting in all this metadata stuff. So he helped me a lot. Thanks Tobias for that. So this is your mention now. But of course, everything I now show you is a product of community work. I would say it's not based on my jobs solely. It's a community thing. I was at a lot of OER camps, and we have this discussion group in Germany on Facebook. So this is, after all, a community product. It's not something which was only enabled on regular job basis. So I made the prototype I will show you now in my free time, but it will hopefully get picked up now in a more professional manner. We'll see what turns out of all this. So this was my little journey to open educational resources, and this is the prototype I now we will now dig a little deeper into that. So let's explore the prototype. First of all, the name OER Hörnchen. It means in German Eichhörnchen and open educational resources. So I just put that together. It doesn't make any real sense, but I think Eichhörnchen is a squirrel, which I can't really pronounce, so I stick to the German name, and yes, this is our little OER Hörnchen, which people can maybe remember better. Thanks to Anna for providing this on Pixabay as CC0 back in the time. So I picked that up and I thought, yeah, maybe people can remember an OER search better this way. So that's just the name. What I did here in the prototype is I combined different data sources from different OER projects, and I will come back to this a little bit later. But what was my initial problem? My problem was we don't have such a search right now, which is, by the way, very quick and dirty, and it only has a title, description, and a preview image, as well as the license, which is very important for me, to me. But my problem was we have different sources, like here in a federal state, we have a repository with OER from higher education. In Hamburg, we have also OER content on hoou.de, and there's some stuff. And then we have at Bochum, here in my federal state right now, there's also Ruhr University Bochum, and here is some OER hidden. It's not all openly licensed, compatible to the UNESCO definition, but there's some OER hidden, so we have that. And then we have another project in teacher education which I really like. It's called Digil, and there are different people from different higher education institutions, and they feedback their materials together and do a little peer review of that before it goes online here. And they have some OER on this page, and then we have in Hanover a video portal, the AV portal, and there's mostly openly licensed stuff. I think 16,000 videos, more than 20,000 videos. So I mean, this is great, but we have this problem in Germany that we don't have right now. At least what I think that is a problem. We don't have something like Oasis, which combines a lot of sources and to find something. And it's a thing teachers always ask in workshops. So where can we find OER? I mean, I like the approach to say you need a search strategy for this, and not only one page can fulfill all your needs, but I think having something like Oasis as a first research is very important. So I'm not really into search engines, metadata, and all this stuff, so I just try to figure out a little quick and dirty hack to just get to combine these sources together. And I explored some options, and I'm not really the command line server Linux guy to get all these stuff going. So I did a little bit experimenting. So first I asked how approach Google that problem, and I mean the Google approach is very simple in a way, but very complex as well, because you can write and develop some website spiders which just go through a website, URL for URL, link for link, which they found, and then they analyze the entries. But what I found was it's quite complex, because we have some, I don't know if I can show it here to you. This is not the best example. Maybe I take a wiki, for example, is always good, because a wiki has a lot of links, and the spider would will go through all of them, and you have to manually customize the spider for a wiki like that, because then he will go through all the category pages, which is not really OER, and I'm just looking for URLs like that, where is an URL and there is clearly OER. So that was my problem. So I mean, better skilled people will figure this out with open source tools like Scrapy. There are some other tools as well, but I couldn't really figure out a really nice and easy way which was compatible with my skills as well. So I discovered then an article which was also very inspiring for me, because we have this other solution which is called APIs, application programming interfaces, where I could just not scrape this page with HTML source code, but I can connect to the API and then get the things I want to have, and that's the problem, but only if a project provides such an API. In the context of repositories, there is OER, PMH. I don't know, I'm not an expert in that. But I discovered this article, and they basically said, so the APIs are not well maintained, and I just should stick to that approach to just get the HTML source code of OER entries, because that's the front end to the visitors, and this will always be well maintained, because visitors will say there's an error, there's something missing, but the API mostly is not very well maintained and not a high priority for the funders as well. So I got this, but I failed with my scrapey approach. You can find that on GitHub as well if you want to pick it up. And I always also wondered, but why? How does Google approach this problem regarding figuring out which URL is really meant to be indexed and parsed and analyzed? Because as I mentioned, there are a lot of sub URLs like pagination or stuff which isn't really, or a category view which isn't really that relevant. So then I thought about it, and the solution was right in front of my eyes, because Google as well, I show you here the Google Search Console, where you can check how your website is indexed by Google. Google also of course enables you to provide a so-called sitemap.xml, which most of the content management systems will provide. And here's my blog, and WordPress has a plugin for this, Google XML sitemaps. It's a thing from search engine optimization, so it's not really a metadata or repository thing. But this was really eye-opening to me, because most projects provide this. Let's go to Hamburg. Mostly it is hidden as /sitemap.xml, and there are the URLs which the project says are meant to be indexed in a search engine. It's not just Google, it applies to other search engines as well. I just mentioned Google here, so we got here the projects, and for me it was very handy, because I just indexed, for example, for the prototype, everything which has a URL path materials, and I got 193 OERs currently available at Hamburg Open Online University. So this was eye-opening for that, and then I figured out, okay, the other repository is run on EduSharing, this open source software developed in Weimar mostly. And I thought, okay, damn, they don't have a sitemap XML, but sometimes cool things happen when you don't expect them. So the developers of EduSharing thought of this as well. It was not sitemap.xml, but I found it, I don't know, by mistake, I can't really remember, and here are all the OERs which are indexed here as well. And so this was a kind of breakthrough moment, because I could get Hamburg and Baden-Württemberg, the federal state, OER repository as well. So this is, this was kind of the easy part. And now you have to figure out things which I need for the prototype. And I always think for OER content creators, license selection is very important. So I'm always very eager about that, having that in the source code. And as you can see here in Baden-Württemberg, that's the best case example. If you check out the HTML source code, there is this convention which is called rel license, which makes the license machine readable for Google as well and other search engines which pick that up. And what you do is you put in this rel license, and then it's the property is just the link to the Creative Commons license, and so that is a standard as well. So that's very cool because I just have to check out the source code for that, and then I get that, and then I put this, I pass this, and it's CC BY, and I just put it in here, and then you can select it and you see it here. So that's the cool part about the license, which is done there. And then the edu-sharing software and the project owners in Baden-Württemberg did something cool as well. They used schema.org, which is, as far as I understand, a standard as well for search engine optimization and structured data in the web and open link data. And I don't know, you should ask the experts about that, and which was cool for me because RDFR felt a little bit, I don't know, complicated. So this is really cool. This is just JSON here in the source code, and this is basically all the metadata they have right now. And the cool thing, as far as I understand it as well, is that in schema.org in the standard there is LRME, which is an educational standard. Please ask the experts about that. For example, Adrian Pohl from the HBZ. But it's all there. I don't have to parse it from anywhere else. I just take this JSON, and you have here the creator, you have keywords, you have what kind of work is it, the language, last date modified, the URL, date published. For me, very important, the URL to the license, otherwise you wouldn't know which version it is. And you have here that is LRME, as far as I know, the learning resource type, and the thumbnail URL, and that's basically all I need for the prototype. So this is really cool, but I would say challenge is other projects don't have it like that, and therefore I can maybe show you, I don't know, which is a good example. You can just use other things, because if they don't have this JSON, you can just get the title. It's in the metadata. Here's the title, and you can as well, most people do that for search engine optimization reasons. The description is also in the metadata, and what is missing here, there are some ways, this is for Open Graph, it's for Twitter as well, there's a Twitter thing as well. They put the thumbnail URL in there so I can index it, so I just check the source code for things like that. But if everybody just would use the schema.org standard and put in a thumbnail URL, my life would be, for the prototype, would be very easy. So that is generally the theory. Now we should put it into practice, and I will just show you how I index something. So now put this into practice, and I have to say first, disclaimer, this is very quick and dirty. This is very simple, and more skilled developers would would use other approaches, I'm very sure. But regarding the OER world map, greetings to the team and all the people involved. I learned a little bit about Elasticsearch, which is kind of a cooler database. It's a so-called search index, which can consume large data and make it easily available for search purposes. So it's not really a database, it's more like a search index, but I don't know, ask the experts for that. Anyway, I needed to put in all the OERs in the web, which I found, so I didn't really had the time to check it out. How can I? It's also Java, so I don't know. So I looked for a way to have this all have an easier setup, and I came across appbase.io, which provides exactly that. It's an Elasticsearch index hosting provider, so it's just a click and you can get Elasticsearch version. And a really cool thing about that is they have a free plan with some limitations. I mean, and then it's relatively pricey, but it's very great for people like me who want just to experiment with that. So I have some indexes here, and I just will show you how this is crawled in a minute. The other cool thing for the prototype I found was there's an open source user interface components library exactly built for Elasticsearch. So I had to dig in React a little bit, which they provide a lot of examples. So that was I wouldn't say it was very easy, but it was easy, and there's a good documentation and you can ask people. So there are still some things to figure out for me, but they just released version 3 as far as I remember correctly. And that's really cool. So, and then I just put my old school developer skills into practice, and I got a codeigniter and the MySQL database as support running. And what this script I will show you in a minute is basically doing is we have here that is my crawl test index, and then you are provided with some API credentials and an URL, and then you just connect to that index, and you see here you can check out the data which is in the index. And so you can explore it like that. It's people who are who worked with databases before. That is, I mean, it's similar. It's technically speaking not the same, but you can see here are my values. There's something in there, and so I just call via MAMP, which is a web server for Mac OS X. So I just flush this. I cd'd into my directory of my, okay, you can, we have I submitted it to GitHub. So there's all the quick and dirty stuff I did. And I cloned that, of course, and I just will flush this now. Okay. See, there was an error, so I will flush it now. And that's just one API call, and now we should see that there isn't something in the index. Another cool thing is they have a search preview, so you can check out the data as well in this dashboard from AppBase, but I won't show you that now. And what I just wanted to show you is how we could get the repository of Baden-Württemberg, which I showed you how we can crawl that. So I just, there's no additional parameter. It's just connecting to the crawl test, so I can test that. So first thing it says, it loads the sitemap XML, and now it just stupidly goes through every URL and gets the JSON which I showed you just from the source code and puts it via API call into that index. So I just a little tip about OS X. There's a command caffeinate, so your database won't go down if this takes longer. And so you see there are, I have also called to check if this is already indexed. This has all to be done more professional, but here it picked up that URL, and then the script it gets the HTML source code, and I simply parse this, and then I get just the title, the description, the license URL, and the thumbnail URL, and I submit it via API just to the index and say create a new document in this index. And so here you can see I also for this repository I have also experimented with the dates. So I have a created year. Here's the description. We have here educational sector. This is a preset value. We have then a license attribution if there's a person behind that. We have the license type. We have the license URL. This is done by me. This is from the JSON I just showed you. Then there's of course this main URL. I have some IDs, a project key for that project. And I have here the thumbnail URL and the title. So this is really simple, and we can also, if you don't want to mess around with React and all this stuff, that's the cool thing about app-based. This is also based, you can add here filters and provide and click this together, but I have it in React, so I made it then with some filters, and you can here also search for something and it will give you all the results. So this is also in GitHub. In web there's the codeigniter stuff, which I call from the command line, and then I have put in the React higher education stuff. People with React can get this running, and you have to do some configuration for the app base, or you have an own Elasticsearch thing, and then here are my scrapey experiments, but here is everything you need. And if you check that out, we have here controllers, OER Hörnchen, and the CLI.php basically triggers all this. Here's documented how I do it on Mac. You should, I think it's running on Linux as well. Very quick and dirty, and it's basically here is a switch case, which is not very professional, but here is the Baden-Württemberg for the sitemap URL, and then I just tell which URLs with which path should be parsed, and then if there's a machine readable license, because if there's not, I will just guess it. Because the Creative Commons.org URLs are not that often in a source code. So yeah, here are all the projects which I parsed already, and then that's basically it. So we now check out how to get this thing on a more professionally basis, and how to work with it in Germany, how we will go forward with this. I got some positive feedback, so let's check out what will happen in future. There are also other projects like X5Gone working on the search thing. My goal was just to have something after all these years. Teachers asking me where and how they can search for OER. So I did this little prototype, so you can play with it. If you have questions, let me know. So thanks for your patience.